The debate about equal and fair pay heated up this week as the movement fighting for a $15 minimum wage enjoyed victory. New York State and California now require it. But not everyone agrees on the numbers in this report, and not everyone sees an economic benefit to messing with wages altogether. In fact, plenty of people could lose out, and not the white males at the top. Here to give us her take on this is Hadley Heath Manning, Senior Policy Analyst for the Independent Women's Forum. Thank you very much for joining me from Denver. Hadley, you say that the 79% is not the correct number. Why?
Well, everyone believes in equal pay for equal work. At least we hope that's the case in 2016 in the United States. But the wage gap doesn't measure equal pay for equal work. The wage gap is a Department of Labor statistic that compares the average full-time working woman and the average full-time working man. Doesn't take into account the different professions that men and women enter, the different seniority or experience that those workers may have, the different educational attainments, or even the number of hours per week that they work. And so if we do take all those variables into account, we find that the wage gap shrinks almost to the point of disappearing, and in some cases it's a reverse wage gap now, where some young women are out earning their male counterparts. So we should celebrate the progress that women have made in that regard.
But isn't there also an argument out there saying that when you look at the positions women have in the workplace, they're not promoted at the same rate? Men hold higher power positions than women.
Well, certainly we can wish for and work towards a better workplace where women and men are all treated fairly. We do have a couple of laws dating back to the 1960s that protect women from workplace discrimination, including the Equal Pay Act and the Civil Rights Act. At the Independent Women's Forum, we believe that further changes do need to be made in order to maximize opportunity and prosperity for women. That's why we released a report this week called Working for Women. It's at workingforwomenreport.com. Discrimination may play a role in our economy in terms of what women face in the workplace, but the wage gap statistic simply isn't a good measure for discrimination.
Wouldn't the fight for 15, that fight for a minimum $15 minimum wage, wouldn't that help women if women are indeed on the lower rung of employees working full time?
Right. Certainly we see women congregating more in professions that are less lucrative, often in part-time and low-wage positions. And we believe in helping those people, especially addressing joblessness, which is an issue that may actually get worse as we increase mandated minimum wages. So at the American Action Forum, former CBO Director Doug Holtz-Eakin looked into the $15 minimum wage, and using other academic studies, he projects that increasing the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour could result in 6.6 million jobs being lost. And so we want to be sure that the doors of opportunity are open to women and men who are at the lower end of the wage scale, that may have low skills or just entering the workforce. Because, of course, if you can't get that first job and you can't get the foot in the door, then you can't see your wages increase later in your career. And that's what we want for all workers, to see that real, authentic wage growth that comes from economic growth.
Well, of course, if you come from a family with money, you can always do that free internship too. That's a good point as well. All
right.
Do you feel like this issue is politicized by both campaigns to garner more votes without really understanding the issue and really caring about women in the workplace, and instead used sort of as an election platform?
Well, certainly we could examine these issues, whether it's equal pay or the federally mandated minimum wage, and say these are efforts to pander to women voters or to low-wage workers. Certainly I hope that's not the case. I hope everyone's coming to the debate with honest intentions. But the bottom line is, looking at these issues from an economic perspective, new regulations are not the best way to combat poverty. If anything, we might talk about expanding the earned income tax credit or some of the other ideas that we propose at IWF. But imposing more regulations on our economy will stifle the growth that men and women workers want to see.
What do you think could help women in the workplace to reach, as far as they possibly can? If you talk to most people now, they want to see women succeed. This sort of chauvinistic viewpoint in our grandfather's generation has gone by the wayside. What is your view of how women can really achieve the highest possible that they can in the workplace?
Right, and we have to keep in mind that for women, success is defined in many individual different ways. That's true for men as well. We're all individuals, so it's hard to break down people into broad stroke categories and say this is what these people want, this is what those people want, when it really comes down to the very individual level. But in order for people to get the most of what they want and to seek their individual definition of success, we favor workplace flexibility for women and men so that they can balance their work lives along with the other priorities they have in their lives. And we propose some suggestions in our Working for Women report, like allowing women to catch up on their retirement savings when they come back from a period of being outside of the workforce. Maybe they've been caring for children or doing something in the intermittent period. We also believe in allowing women to save tax-free in a personal care account so that when they do have a maternity leave period or another period during their lives when they're called away from the workplace to work in a different kind of way in their homes or with their families, that they've had some savings for that period. So we believe in giving women the maximum flexibility because we understand that success looks different for each and every woman.
Thank you very much for your input. Senior Policy Analyst at the Independent Women's Forum, Hadley Heath Manning.
Thank you.
Well,